Ride of Steel is the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the state of New York. This ride is not only significant for its respective park in Six Flags Darien Lake, but it was also an important ride for both the amusement industry and the Six Flags chain as a whole. Many people know that this was the first Intamin hypercoaster out there, but this was also the first hypercoaster at any Six Flags park. So how does this ride stack up to the newer hypers? Find out in this review. Darien Lake was acquired by Premier Parks in the mid-1990s. The chain went on to acquire Six Flags in 1998. This New York park was officially rebranded as a Six Flags property for the 1999 season, and the park celebrated by adding Superman Ride of Steel. This was the first in a series of hypercoasters that Six Flags would purchase over the next decade. Six Flags would use a variety of manufacturers, but they would reuse Intamin for two others just 1 year later in 2000, both of which were also named Superman. One would go to Six Flags America, and it would be a mirror clone. The other would go to Six Flags New England, but that one received a custom layout due to that park's space constraints. Superman would be the tallest coaster in New York, reaching heights of 208 feet or 63 meters. This ride commands the skyline at Darien Lake. The ride features the iconic red and blue paint scheme featured on the other Superman coasters. While locals still refer to this coaster as Superman, it hasn't officially gone by that name in nearly 15 years. In 2006, Six Flags sold Darien Lake to Park Management. This caused the park to lose the DC branding. Superman Ride of Steel was lazily renamed as Ride of Steel. The giant S was ripped off the steel station, and the logo was removed from the train. Many people thought this would be a temporary name, but it stuck around. Most interestingly, Six Flags reacquired the park back in 2018, yet the name still has not been changed back to Superman. Ride of Steel is located towards the back of Darien Lake. This ride's placement is quite eye-catching. The ride's colossal lift hill towers over the ride's entry plaza. Then the drops and first few hills run alongside the main roadway to attract prospective customers. Honestly, that's where you'll get the best views of this coaster. Then the ride also travels out over the water. Intamin decided to use some straight track to give riders the sensation they were skimming across the surface of the water, which is an admittedly neat visual. This moment feels much more out of place in Six Flags America's Superman when you're whizzing across an open field. Ride of Steel bans bags and loose articles from being stored on the ride platform. Guests can either purchase a nearby locker, or the park offers complimentary cubbies in the ride plaza. I don't really like the security of the latter because you can't watch over it while you're waiting and riding, but a lot of people preferred to use this. This often has the longest wait at Darien Lake. Not only is Ride of Steel the park's most popular coaster, but it has a dreadful throughput for a ride like this. It is exceedingly rare to find a hypercoaster running just one train, but that's what you get at Ride of Steel every single day. It's not like the park has two trains and chooses to run one. No, they only have one train. The train at least holds a good amount of people as it holds 32 riders across 8 cars, and each of those cars is 2 rows of 2. The one train ops mean a station wait can still take 20-ish minutes between the ride's lengthy cycle time and the dispatch speeds. And if the line extends into the switchbacks, you'll be waiting much longer. I've had to wait almost an hour for this on a weekday before, when everything else at the park was basically a walk-on. Therefore, I would recommend starting your day at Ride of Steel to get some laps in while the line is still short. The coaster does need some time to warm up, so you still should return later in the day to ride it in peak conditions. Ride of Steel is included on the park's Skip the Line pass, but unlike most Six Flags parks where you merge into the station, Ride of Steel sends you right up the exit ramp. The crew will then assign you a random seat. You will not be able to choose. If you want to pick the seat you're in, you'll need to use the standby queue. While you get some good airtime regardless of where you're sitting, the front and back cars offer the best ride experience. I'm torn which one I prefer. I think the front is smoother and allows you to feel all that speed, but I think the back has better airtime. Ride of Steel has a very noticeable rattle on the helixes in the back car. You can see the train shimmying as you're spiraling about. While it's not pleasant, it's not too big of an issue. The only thing you need to watch out for is your calves banging into the center pole for the T-bar. Yes, Ride of Steel still has the simplistic Intamin T-bar restraints. These leave you very exposed and offer some sweet airtime. The ride originally opened without seatbelts, but on just the ride's second day of operation, a guest was thrown from the train on the final bunny hills and luckily survived. When this coaster reopened, seatbelts were added. Sadly, that's not the only time this coaster has ejected a guest. In 2011, a war veteran with 2 missing legs fell off the coaster and unfortunately died. He should not have been allowed to ride, but he wasn't height checked and the operators missed that he was a double amputee. Because of these 2 incidents, I'm surprised the restraints aren't more restrictive, especially because Darien Lake ordered new trains in recent years. Six Flags America's Superman has T-bars modified. They received metal bars on the side, basically turning them into a W restraint, plus shin guards. The latter can definitely be an annoyance for taller guests. Six Flags New England Superman also threw a guest from the train in 2004. The restraint was originally modified to the version seen on Six Flags America's Superman, but when New England's version was transformed into Bizarro for the 2009 season, the central bar and shin guards were removed, but the restraint was turned into a bulky U-bar. Many people despise this restraint, although I have grown to like it. I previously reviewed Six Flags America's Superman, and the ride experience I'm about to describe is nearly identical. The only thing I want to note is that I've only experienced Darien Lake's Hypercoaster in the summer months. I've heard this coaster can run really slow on cooler days. That did surprise me because I've ridden Six Flags America's Superman on cold spring days and 40-degree nights, yet I've still gotten strong airtime. Ride of Steel begins with a U-turn out of the station. You then climb the giant chain lift. Corfu, New York doesn't have the most exciting visuals, but you do get a sweet view of the park if you look behind you. Once at the top, you head down the 68-degree first drop. I'm used to New England Superman where you get a briefer but stronger surge of airtime. The drop looks very similar on Ride of Steel. You reach your max angle of descent pretty quickly, but you still get good sustained ejector on Ride of Steel. And you reach your max speed of 73 miles per hour or 117 kilometers per hour at the bottom. The drop pulls out over the water, which is a neat visual. Then you rapidly twist 90 degrees to the left. This is a fast and forceful turn that usually causes me to gray out. It is rare for a ride this large to turn right after the largest drop, but it's a fun display of force here. You then fly over a giant camelback. I know from Six Flags America's Superman that this is the one element that needs time to warm up. When Ride of Steel is running fast, this hill gives decent sustained ejector up front. In the back, the airtime is as sustained, but is a bit weaker. You then hop upwards, getting some weak floater airtime up front. You may get a little lift in the back, if any. Then you navigate a 540-degree downwards helix. You get a pinch of laterals going into the element because it's not banked as severely as you may expect. Then the helix seems to last forever. You carry good speed through it. This thing just has a large diameter. The speed makes it enjoyable up front, but it does suffer in the other seats because it's not the most forceful helix. You just get some mild, albeit sustained Gs. Next is Ride of Steel's infamous section of straight track. While I would have preferred another hill here, you do at least have the fun visual in this one going over the water. And if you're up front, you're still being blasted by the wind. This leads into the ride's best element, the third hill. This is a much smaller camelback than the first one. It is a perfectly parabolic hill, and it delivers some wicked forces. You get a blast of positive Gs at the base, and then you're violently launched skywards. It's some serious and sustained ejector airtime. Then the pullout again blasts riders with good positives. I love how this element rapidly changes the forces like that. This is followed by another quick section of straight track, and then another helix. This one starts with a nice head chopper. Then the element is just as long as the first helix, but it's instead an upwards one. It's very light in the forces, and you'll start to feel the coaster bleeding off speed. Ride of Steel thankfully has a great finale in store. There's this little dip out of the helix that gives some weak float for those in back. Then everyone gets another brief surge of positive Gs. Then you rocket over an S-hill. You get a good ejector pop up front, but this element is much better in the back. The airtime is stronger and semi-sustained too. You then have 2 consecutive bunny hills. The first gives good semi-sustained ejector for all. It does cut off a bit early in the back cars though, because there's a trim brake on the descent. This negatively impacts the second bunny hill up front. You still get ejector airtime, but it's much weaker due to the speed loss. Those in back get comparable ejector airtime to the prior hill on the descent. I can only imagine how nuts this hill would have been without the trim. You then rapidly slow down, and I cannot believe how short this ride's brake run is. If you're in the back, you're sort of thrown diagonally forwards because you're still out of your seat from the final hill's airtime as you start to slow down. You then return to the station, ending the 5,400 foot or 1,600 meter long coaster. Now, what about this coaster's pacing? This is where Ride of Steel suffers compared to other hypercoasters. I think the airtime hills, particularly those in the second half, can compete with those on newer Intamin hypers. However, this ride does not have the strongest middle section between those 2 helixes in the straight track. I'm glad future hypers have gone more heavy on the airtime hills. So what would I rate Ride of Steel? I would give this coaster an 8 out of 10. This ride's airtime hills are great. The ones in the second half are particularly good. They have some nice and sustained ejector airtime. This ride's biggest flaw is the pacing, as I already mentioned. Ride of Steel carries its speed well, but not all of the elements towards the middle hit, namely those 2 helixes and the straight track. But this ride thankfully starts and finishes well. I think Darien Lake's version has a cool setting over the water and better restraints than the one at Six Flags America, but I think the one in Maryland runs a bit smoother, runs more consistently, and night rides on that one are fantastic. Then the one in New England is head and shoulders better than both of them. While there are certainly better Intamin hypers out there now than Ride of Steel, this may have been the world's best hypercoaster when it originally opened. I think it's still a good ride though, and the best attraction at Darien Lake. So those are my thoughts on Ride of Steel. What are your thoughts on the prototype Intamin hyper? Do you prefer this one, or the mirror clone at Six Flags America? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.